I'll be honest with you, I can give a person a house today, but if I don't change their hearts first, usually, and then their minds and their knowledge, they won't be able to maintain it. And
Hmm.
so the work we do is that deep mental work and that heart work of understanding why you are where you are and what you can control. You can't control everything, but we teach people how to control that. And that costs money. So that's the beauty of
Yeah.
what Heather and the Realtors Giving Network has done with us and for us. They understand the need for that and they support it.
Hey, everybody, it's Matt Fowler from Triangle Multiple Listing Service. This is another episode of the Triangle MLS podcast. We have our friend Heather from RGN today and Leslie Covington with us, one of Heather's clients. Is that the right way to say that? Affiliated
Nonprofit partners.
organizations. There you go. Nonprofit partner. Thank you. Thank you. And we're here to talk about the great work that they're doing in the Triangle area. Heather, tell us about who you are and what you're doing here this morning.
Sure. Leslie and I share the same sentiment that it really is a joy and privilege to get to do what we do. And that's engaging realtors, in my case, and in Leslie's case, stakeholders, into being part of the solution in homelessness and giving them a chance to engage in that in a meaningful way and in a way that they can embrace. So I love the work that the Realtor Giving Network is doing, and we're harnessing the collective giving power of realtors and giving away vital funds to local housing nonprofits that are really in the trenches doing the hard work like Leslie is. I'm so excited to have Leslie Covington, who's CEO of the Carying Place, here today and just an amazing partner.
Thanks, Leslie. Welcome. I've gotten to go over to the Carying Place a couple of times. It's really a fantastic facility. You guys have a lot going on over there. And you said you're specifically addressing the, really challenging problem of homelessness. Tell us the major way you do that.
Well, the Caring Place is a 31-year-old nonprofit. And for the duration of our time, we have always focused on supporting and empowering homeless working families with children. We tell people all the time that homelessness looks different now than it did before. And so our focus has always been on the working family, back in the day known as the working poor. And
Mhm.
so we provide them with two very important things. First of all, is transitional housing, enough support, 16 months of housing, no cost to them, to get them back on their feet. But during that time, the magic that happens really is the financial literacy and the budgeting and the life skills that we provide to our families so that they can work through what the true issues are and resolve those as best as they can under our.
Gosh, so that seems hard to scale. Like you've got to have somebody sitting in front of these people on just pretty regular basis going through the checkbooks, right? Family budgeting, and that's hard work.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of organizations like the Realtor Giving Network and Heather. They understand the capacity that we need to really truly do that. And I'll be honest with you, I can give a person a house today, but if I don't change their hearts first, usually, right, and then their minds and their knowledge, they won't be able to maintain it. And
Hmm.
so the work we do is that deep mental work and that heart work of understanding why you are where you are and what you can control. You can't control everything, but we teach people how to control that. And that costs money. So that's the beauty of what Heather and the Realtors Giving Network has done with us and for us. They understand the need for that and they support it.
Yeah, we've been so blessed, Heather, and our organizations by the housing industry. We really are trying to just acknowledge that this is a part of the overall housing industry, and it's I don't know, it's less of a charitable service than it is just a responsibility. We talk a lot about transparency and housing accessibility and affordability. This is a very direct way that we can just send some funds when we figure out a way to collect them, like ticketing for proptechsouth.com, or donations that we have that we're able to make out of reserve funds. Really more interested in just making the whole issue that Leslie was just talking about, making people more aware of it. I know in a challenging economy, it's hard to make room in just your headspace for things that aren't directly feeding to the bottom line. But we're in an industry that's very, very public, and we're in the news all the time for good and bad reasons. And we really have 14,000, almost 15,000 users who are out putting people into houses every day. And this is maybe well, it is a part of that. And so one of the things that we've done before Leslie, I know you probably know about it, but we have curriculum that we've collected at Triangle from another organization that we've been affiliated with called the Wealthy Child Handbook. And it's curriculum for grade school kids to teach financial literacy. And we've actually got, I saw them in the office today, we've got a few hundred of those for anybody watching the podcast today, or for you or your organizations. If you have a class of fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth graders, that's roughly what the curriculum is designed for. We're really happy to provide that curriculum, and we have instructors available, instructor volunteers, but we're really happy to help empower your organization to do that too. Because I
We would
think
absolutely love that.
it really does start though, just that awareness. We ran an ad campaign last year that said math teachers can still buy a house in North Carolina. And, they really do. They really can. And people, maybe that's my next question for you. When people graduate from your program, or they're out trying to enter the housing market, how does that work when they're going from your facility? Because I know you have, of course, limited resources. People, I assume, graduate.
Yes, they do. Well, I'll be honest with you. From the beginning of our intake process, we are assessing their ability to rent, their ability to move from our program into their own self-sustained housing. So it's a big part of what we're assessing, even from the very beginning. And several years back, it was easy for people to move out and find 800, 900, even $1,000 apartment. And we know that that's few and far between now. So when we bring families in, we're assessing their full income, their debts, making sure that they are trying to pay off the debt that's keeping them from getting housed. And we now have to build even more partnerships to sort of wrap around those families at the end of our program, so that they will have somewhere, they will have options. So the good thing about it is Wake County is decently resource rich, still not enough housing, even if you need it, but still pretty resource rich. And people are starting to understand, like you said, the dire need for that. And so we have some pretty decent partners in the area, other nonprofits, even county, that's helping try to tackle the issue and providing home options for our families. So honestly, it's across the spectrum. Many of our families can find their own, right? But there are times when we simply have to link them to a source that provides direct housing support.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure the demand far outstrips the supply of that in all of our counties. Triangle, as a business a few years ago, added rentals in a much more complete way than we have in the past. We have about almost 100% more rentals in our system than we had a couple of years ago, because we consider renters future homeowners. And, the homeowning experience, as the math teacher we interviewed last year from Cary told us, is mostly about security and stability. That she felt that she had, you remember that story, Heather, when she talked about what was meaningful to her, we're kind of in the business and thought about the equity that she was creating and the value in her house that the wealth that was being created as she just owned the house, like most of us have enjoyed. Whereas her primary motivation was that she knew what the payment was going to be, for 30 years or 20 something years. And she knew that she could afford it as a teacher, and she could stay in that house and she could provide that to her family. So we're trying to lead people to that through renting is absolutely a part of that journey. And we want your organization to know, and people watching the podcast to know, realtors and aspiring, homeowners, that there is a path to that. And there are down payment assistance programs. We have an integration with Down Payment Resources, which is an organization that flags properties and lets you register to see if you income qualify, or maybe you're in a job type that has a program that's available to you. So if you're a buyer looking at a house online, or somebody in Leslie's program looking at a rent rate or a purchase price online, it may not cost that much for you. If you go through some of these programs, it may actually be accessible. We just really want to inspire people to take a look. And it's tough when the affordability rate is as low as it is. That really means that people have to move out. Is traditionally what's happening. The mortgage industry says you drive till you qualify. So Heather, do you have anything to add about what the realtors can do to help support RGN and add to the support Leslie's getting?
Always. There's lots of things I can talk about, Matt, and this is one of them. So what I will say is the statistics that come to light, like I know it costs $27.15. Somebody would have to make $27.15 an hour to afford a fair market 2-bedroom apartment. So
Hmm.
what Leslie's doing is she's enabling people through those financial skills and that support to be able to make that kind of hourly wage. And in return, Leslie calls the Realtor Giving Network and she says, you know what? One of our properties, we need a washer dryer. All of a sudden, I put that call out to realtors, and I swear to you, literally within less than 24 hours, that wash machine dryer is going to be delivered to that property.
So true.
Leslie's going to call and say, hey, we're trying to move in a family to this apartment and the walls look horrible. Can y'all come in and paint? Can y'all come in and furnish? So what I love about what realtors are doing is they are rapid responders to their clients. They curate experiences for them, for people who are in the market to buy a house. And then through the Realtor Giving Network, we're given that opportunity to do it to unhoused neighbors. And in simple ways, it can be a donation. It can be, hey, my client's moving out and there's 4 couches. Do you want one? And those are huge for a nonprofit like Leslie to be able to come in and say, hey, this apartment's going to be furnished and not have to do it with the lack of resources that they have. Like nonprofits solve all the social problems in the world with limited resources. So the fact that realtors come in and they answer yes every time. And so I know it really propels Leslie and her team to be able to do more good works.
That's great, Heather. And I know that some people aren't even aware of what RGN is, and you and I are just in this all the time, and I don't even think about it. So Triangle MLS is a regional MLS. We cover 16 counties. There are 5 local realtor associations that are stakeholders that belong to us, and that's where our members come from. And RGN is a service organization, a foundation that sits next to these organizations, and it acts as like a community fund. So donations that come in from anywhere, we're able to give those to Heather. Heather gives them to very deserving 501c3s and other types of organizations like Leslie's at the Carying Place. And that's a way for donations to just be super convenient to come into RGN and just, trust Heather and her staff whose, expenses are really mostly covered unless that's changed, Heather, in another way. So really, almost all of the donations that come into RGN go straight out to
I would say
organizations
85 to 90% go right back out, which is a really high number.
An extraordinary number industry wise. We're really trying to, just underline that this is really very effective. We try to just, do as little as we can admin wise and then push those resources out to organizations.
And I think a lot of times people feel like if they can't give $500 and they shouldn't give, or if they can't give 100. Leslie, can you share real quick what, let's say $25 or $50 donation, what that looks like for you all?
For us, I would say a $25 to $50 donation would support really one of those learning and life skill sessions that we provide to our children first, right? And a little bit more for the adults, about $100. So remember, our families are with us for 16 weeks each, and each week they get intense training, budget training, and resource linking, and just filling in the blanks of what they don't know yet. And so that time, does cost us. It takes the case management. It takes a set of both staff and volunteers. So that's how we work with so many families is we give them a team of staff and volunteers. And so the training that they need, right? The nights that they spend in our units cost money to be able to turn on the lights and run the water. Remember, we're not making them pay utilities, right? This is at no cost to them. And so the finances that come from Triangle MLS, Realtor Giving Network, they are going directly to support every family. And so it's well worth it.
Can you give us, just in the spirit of home ownership, can you give us an example of one of your clients who has, one or two of your clients who may actually be homeowners now and a realtor sold them the house?
Actually, I have 2. One in particular is the teacher, right, who came to us several years back. And what stuck out to me about her is she is a Cary middle school teacher. And when she realized that the bitter divorce that she was going to was not only tearing up her family emotionally, but stripping her of her home, she went to her school social worker and said, I need some help, but the help is not for a student this time. It's for me and my family. And I hate to say this, but I need to figure out where we're going to live. And here's why. She was immediately linked to the Carying Place, and we interviewed her. She got into our program, and she said, look, I have to do this work. I'm not even going to unpack a box until I'm back and home with my family, with my two boys. She had one very ill son, and then her oldest son had been diagnosed with ADHD, while the other one actually had, significant disease that he's still fighting today at 17 years old. But that teacher was the most inspirational person I've ever seen go through our program. She stayed positive, even going through the divorce and what that could have done to her. She said, you know what? I have to get my life back together for my sons. And I have to let them see that a teacher, their mom, can do this. So she stuck with it. And she did move out into her own apartment for a while. She did not unpack one box. She didn't put one picture up on the wall. She said, because my goal is to get them the home that they deserve. And that's what she did. She purchased a home. And then she came back and taught our other graduate families what she did to get that home. Well, wildfire spread, and one of her co-graduates, they were helping us to lead graduate program together. She had lived in a house near the Taylor Family YMCA and was told that she was renting to own. Well, she found out that she actually was not renting to own. Something was happening with the owner, and she lost the house altogether. One day came home and found out, I can't live here anymore. So she went from this very nice neighborhood to trying to figure out, where am I going to take me and my 3 children? Came to the Carying Place. She worked for a pharmaceutical company. Okay, so we're not talking about people who were just sitting and doing nothing, but she did not have a home to live in outside of a hotel that she could go to because the rest of her family is in another state. She loves this area and refused to leave. So came into our program, did the same, worked hard, and said, you know what, our goal, just like the teacher, who is a friend of mine now, is to buy a home. And they purchased their home about 2.5 years ago. And she called us and she said, I just want you to know, I'm buying this house for the Carying Place, right? I'm doing it to prove to the families that I sit beside that this is possible. And those are the 2 biggest examples. I'll be honest, for me, I had been renting myself. And I said, I can't do this. If I'm teaching people to go from homelessness to home ownership, I've got to learn, I've got to buckle down, I've got to pay off my bills, and I've got to be just like those families. And I've got to do the same thing. And so those are my inspirations for buying a home in March of this year. So
Leslie,
it
you just did?
it spreads like wildfire. And so those families now are sort of gathering together and saying, okay, how can we help other people? That's the beauty of what you all are doing. And I promise you, the realtors who work with them are like, yay. They're right here in the triangle and making it happen. And it's
I love those
of that work.
I love those stories, Leslie. That's precisely why we're doing this podcast, because I love those stories. I think I've heard one of those stories before, and that's just amazing. And wildfire is what we're talking about, and not maybe inspiration, another word. Both our realtor members who need to get involved, and I was involved with the street homeless in another life, and that's a different population. And I got so much more out of it than I ever put into it. I know that's such a cliche that people say, but it's just such a real experience. I can't not tell people that story and encourage them to go do that.
But Leslie, just a big present from realtors. So we just Carying Place $25,000.
No,
We give them
not
$25,000 before.
Not $25. We were talking about $25,000.
Yes.
Awesome.
So now we're up to 50 to probably 70, just based on other projects that we've done. So we always encourage people to give with wild abundance. So if it doesn't hurt when you give, you're not giving enough.
There you go. I love your phrases, Heather. You definitely know what you're doing. Well, Leslie, how would people contact you if they wanted to get involved with helping the Carying Place?
That's a great question. So you can always contact me directly at leslie.covington, and that's a V in there, at thecaryingplace.org. But we have a website, www.thecaryingplace, it's 1R.org. And there's a list of how to get in touch with every staff member, especially me. So all they have to do is reach out.
Great. And we'll link that in the comments too, and make sure that people have access to that. And Heather, how would we find RGN if you're a realtor and you didn't know that RGN existed? And now there's a fantastic place to help your community.
That's right. Got no excuses anymore. It's in the flesh. It's for real people. www.rrargivingnetwork.com. realtor.org. And we always have tons of events, lots of volunteer opportunities. And, more than anything, just want people to know that there's a space for them to be able to give back in a meaningful way, an impactful way, with over 10,000 realtors, 14,500 subscribers to TMLS. We have got manpower and there are people in need, and we can make it happen.
And you'll definitely hear about all of that again on a future Triangle podcast and all the other ways that we talk to the subscribers. So Heather and Leslie, thanks so much for joining us today. Everybody, tune in for the next one. Thanks a lot.